So today I'm joined by Sherry in our studio. Thank you for joining me, Sherry.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So the first time that we actually met was because we were going to Thailand together to work for a children's home. I don't know if you remember.
Absolutely.
But I think that my biggest takeaway from that trip when I met you was I was like, gosh, Sherry is somebody who is so talented because we were doing work for the children's home. So you did a lot of the artwork and things for the home. But on top of that, you were somebody that, loved God so much and was so hungry for God. So that was my first impression of you. And what a great one.
Yeah, that was a great trip. I feel like it was the first time that I got to know you better, Francis, and was just so amazed. I feel like you have this skill for just like making things happen, just listing out what should happen when. And I definitely remember that trip. It was such a nice experience to be able to put together those things that I think people in our group were talented at. I remember we had a wedding photographer and he took the
Yeah.
photos for us. We had you and you just did the whole timeline scheduling everything, and just to be able to see people use their creative talents, their passions to help other people is, yeah, it's really sweet.
Yeah. So I'm so excited. That's why I think I'm so excited to be on the couch with you today because we met a couple years ago and just to also see you flourish and, the things that you've done. It's exciting.
Well, thanks, Francis.
Yeah. So I know that you recently came back from studying abroad and you had to come back because of the quarantine, right? But otherwise you were studying abroad. What was that like and what made you want to go abroad?
Yeah, it has been good. So I think since finishing my undergraduate, I did my undergraduate in Missouri, but after that, I've been living on and off, mostly not in the States. And the past year, I just finished my master's in art in Hong Kong. I feel like there was a period of time when I was in college around my junior year that I just spent time asking the Lord, like, where do you want me? Like, where should I go? And I just felt Him really put Asia on my heart. So after college, I just knew that was the general direction I was headed in, and started taking steps towards that. The past year with COVID, pandemic, everything has been so crazy. I think in 2020, I was planning to go to Hong Kong originally, and I had booked my flight, everything, and I remember we were like sitting around with some friends who were going to fly at the same time, and you're like hearing about this coronavirus thing coming out and not sure if we should board the plane or not. Thank goodness we didn't, but it's just been such an up and down adventure, and I'm really thankful I was able to eventually go over in 2021 and do my master's there. I think it's like really interesting living abroad, much slower for me because now that I've done this a couple times, and I just realized my capacity is decreased by usually somewhere between like 30-50%.
Wow.
Yeah, just because, okay, you go downstairs to order a sandwich and it just takes so much brain power. You're like, okay, like, how do I say this? Like, what's appropriate? Do I bust the dishes here? Like, all these little things that you take for granted and you don't have to think about in your home culture when you go to another place. Suddenly, like, it takes brain power, it takes energy to do these things. And so everything slows down for me. I don't know, maybe some people are much better at this. So I will say that's one thing I've noticed about living abroad, but there's also so many, like, I think special things. I feel like it's given me a lot of perspective, and just being able to like see the way that other people live. And then when I'm like facing difficult circumstances, just realizing like, well, it's not the end of the world. Like it's okay.
I feel like people who travel, like live abroad or choose to do that, they're a very special person because you have to be able to face the unknown in a certain way versus just what you already know here, right? So what are some of the things that you had to maybe relearn in terms of like how they do life differently out there in Hong Kong than what's over here?
Yeah, Hong Kong is interesting because my family is from a nearby region in China. So there's some things culturally that feel very similar, but some things are certainly different. Let me try to think of a specific example. I'm having a rough time.
We'll
Oh
circle back
gosh.
to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then you picked Hong Kong because you have a special place in your heart for Asia. You also mentioned that you're doing your master's in art there. Tell me about the process of even, I mean, this is more of an Asian question, Asian culture question, but
Yeah.
how did your parents react, I guess, your family, when you said you wanted to major and even do a master's in art?
Yeah, it was challenging for them for sure.
Hmm.
My dad is a physicist. My mom is a computer scientist. My brother is a computer scientist. And I think when I was in high school and I was like, parents, like, I love art. Like, I think I want to do this. I think it's really challenging for them to kind of imagine that or come to terms with that, and also feel like they didn't know how to help me because in their respective domains they have knowledge, they know how to go forward, but I think in the area of art they feel like it's kind of like this a blank canvas to them. They don't know how to help their child forward in that. But I think my parents really, like, given the circumstances, have been really supportive, and just reminding me that, yeah, like, Sherry, like, at this point now I'm have finished grad school in it, and just, I think at different points when I become discouraged, just saying like, hey, isn't this something that you said you wanted to do? Like, didn't you say that this was something that God put on your heart? And didn't you believe that it was powerful, or that like God could use it in some way? And yeah, so I think on the whole, like, encouraging, even though it's understandably really challenging for my parents.
That's amazing. I feel like so many parents may not let their kids do that, at least our generation. So it's
Yeah.
really great that your parents know that this is something that you love and release you to be able to do that.
Yeah, I we have fought over it before many times. Yeah, and yeah, I think sometimes they wonder too, like, was it the right situation? Right decision to kind of allow me to pursue this, or like, should they have like cut it in the like bed, never sent me to art class? But at this point, it's much too late. So
So I
yeah.
asked you to come on the show because I think you are an amazing artist. And for people that don't know your work yet, they should. But what is your medium of art? I think everybody who is an artist, they have like one thing that either they start off with or they actually like grow into, right? What is that for you?
Yeah.
Like, what are you known for as an artist,
Oh
in your own
man.
words? Yeah.
I think illustration is what I do mostly. I like to use a lot of mixed media. So I paint, I draw, I collage things together. Just a lot of different techniques, but mostly painting and drawing is what I love to do. I also use a lot of like different digital tools, but I think just like the analog, mark making on paper or on a canvas, there's just something really satisfying about that to me. And when I look at a painting too, I love to look at paintings. It's just thinking about like how direct that type of mark making is. It's like a trace of time. Like, there was a person there, they held a brush and they made a mark on the canvas, and now you see it. I think there's just something very direct and satisfying to me about painting.
I love that. That was like definitely an artist response, which I really appreciate. And I mean, just in following you on Instagram,
Yeah.
I've seen that progression of, there was a minute where you shared more paintings, and then it went to like your sketches, and then now it's into your screen printing, which we'll talk about later. But it's really cool to see.
Yeah.
Where did your love for art come from? Like, how was that cultivated in your life growing up?
I think it's something definitely enjoyed as a child. I loved reading a lot, so I like cleared through all the books in my elementary school library, and I loved these stories, and I loved drawing pictures that went along with the stories. And I remember as a kid, like, writing my own story about like these pandas and these sisters, and then like folding it up and drawing all these pictures. And I think that's how it started for me, just like this love of storytelling, and the way that pictures come alongside that.
So would you say that you express yourself like through art and the making of art in a way?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and also growing up, I think making art helped me to process a lot of the different things and emotions that go alongside growing up. And just having an outlet that felt like it was my own space, not necessarily something that I had to do for SATs or like had to do to show someone on my resume, but having a space where I could like create something from the different experiences I was having, and even as a way to record life and the different things that were going on. I started keeping a sketchbook around middle school, and I've had one since, and now like I have a big just collection of all of them, and I have one today as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'll show you.
Yeah, show us. Yeah. Do you ever like look back at your? I mean, because I'm sure you keep all of them. You look back and see.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, if you guys have ever read through like your middle school journals, it's really terrible. But I'm glad they exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's just kind of a way for me to record life in some ways. I think this was a lecture. So I did, as part of my master's, I spent some time in Greece.
Amazing.
Yeah, which is awesome. Definitely experienced the decreased 30 to 50% capacity. Yeah, but it was really splendid. And yeah, I think just like being able to, like record the things that are happening around me, and just like, processing things that are happening. And we stayed in kind of like a castle, more or less. Which was really incredible, but just to be able to write these things down and feel like they exist outside of my head somewhere.
That's incredible. So most people write journals, but your version of it is through like your sketches, like how you like in your art and capturing those moments.
Yeah, I also do write a lot. I journal, but I think to me the sketchbook has a similar purpose, like some record of time and of experience, and yeah, like all my classmates, and I don't know, just these like little tidbits that you're like, it's not really worth anything, but somehow like recording it in some way and making this small art out of it makes it feel meaningful, like it was here.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I feel like I want to flip through all your books, because even within your book you have so many different mediums that you're using, which is like really great to see. So
yeah. I love the sketchbook because it's just a place for experimentation, and I don't like always show, and I usually don't show all of it to people because a lot of it sucks, like this is a terrible drawing. But it's nice that it's just a place to experiment, and yeah, I like that a lot of the different things I like to do can come together in a sketchbook. For example, like we were talking about printmaking and then painting and drawing. So this type of texture is made using a brayer, which is usually a tool in printmaking. And in my sketchbook, I can kind of experiment with ways like, oh, like maybe this could work together in this way. And there is a spread where I kind of paint into too. I wonder if I can find it. Oh, yeah. So like drawing with like the printmaking material and different things like that.
That is so cool. I love it.
Well, thanks, Frances.
I feel like you could like publish all of these, even though these are your sketches. Like, it's incredible.
Definitely not.
Totally incredible.
Yeah.
What drives you as an artist, I wonder?
Yeah. There are a lot of things that I like about art, and there's some things that are just like satisfying to me, just like for my own purposes. I think my sketchbook is kind of like that. It's just like, oh, something that makes me happy. But I feel like there is, like a much higher calling of art. And if we look at the history of art, it's so often like associated with worship. Like if you look at the history of Asian art, when we study Asian art, it's like basically studying the spread of Buddhism across these different Asian countries. And when we look at the history of Western art, it's like in Greek classical art, it's like paganism, and then Christianity. And I think so often art is associated with worship. And when we see art in the Bible, it's these like craftsmen are building the tabernacle of God. So I think a lot of times like what the art we make, what we pour these resources into, it's not like something you need, but it just is revealing like what is valuable to you, like as an individual, as a society. That's like a very macro answer, but I think ultimately I really do hope that my art can in some way be glorifying to God. I haven't figured out exactly what that looks like at this point. Sometimes some of my artworks are more explicitly religious, and then some of them I'm just drawing a dinosaur, like it's not. But yeah, I do really hope that ultimately that my art could be be a way of worship.
Amazing. Yeah. How do you, when you're an artist, like sometimes there's so many people doing similar things. Like, how do you continue to have like a unique voice in what you produce in art?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's even more and more like challenging in our time where we get to see what everyone else is making, and it's just like, oh, I'm a little close to that. I think sometimes it helps me to just step away and not look so much at what contemporary artists are making. Just think about the things that interest me. A lot of times, voice reflects something about the artist. Like maybe they grew up in a certain place, and that's why the type of patterns they use like look like they come from this place. And to think about the things that affected me growing up, or the different like visual cultures that I'm associated with, and then to look at those things and gather them in, and then start to make my own work, I think has been an easier way for me to try to tap into voice than like just consuming the work of other people and trying to like compare or like be tempted to copy. Yeah, I think sometimes that's not a great route for me.
Yeah. And it goes back to also the storytelling aspect that you were mentioning earlier about kind of like what inspires you. So that's great. You recently have started doing some screen printing, and I know that you also mentioned that earlier. But most recently, we've seen you do these bags. Can you show? You have one of them,
Yeah,
right?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the cutest thing, and I just think this was like so brilliant, right? Because this is the takeout box, the Chinese takeout box that you made into this beautiful art piece that you put on canvas bags, and then this started your screen printing. I don't know if this is the first thing you screen printed. It must not be, right? But
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about
yeah.
screen printing. I first learned how to screen print in college, and I loved it. But we had like a screen printing studio at my school, so it was super simple. I just go in the studio, I use their equipment, and it was something I've really wanted to do since, but didn't have the opportunity to, because there's some pretty bulky equipment that you need to do it, and it's not very friendly to apartment living. It's not very friendly to like constantly moving around type of living. But we mentioned this earlier. I came back from Hong Kong at the end of last year, and I really had been hoping to go back to Hong Kong pretty soon after. Unfortunately, flights have been blocked to Hong Kong for the first couple months of this year, and I realized like, oh, I'm gonna be here for a little bit. And around that time, I went to Joann's, and they were having closing out sale, and I saw a screen printing kit, and I was like, this is my chance. Like,
wow, from Joann's. I love that.
Like I'm at home in California. I have a backyard. I have a garage. I might as well take advantage of this time because here I am. Yeah, so I got the screen printing kit from Joann's, and I just started like making some stuff that was interesting to me. And yeah, I think this like series of the bags and the other work that's kind of inspired by being Asian American came about after I came back. And I think living in Hong Kong and in other places in Asia, I experienced this kind of weird dissonance. It's like, well, I'm not quite American, but I'm really not Chinese either. Like my Chinese friend was telling me, like, yeah, I think of you as an American who speaks really good Chinese. Yeah, but at the same time, like, I think living in the Midwest for college and at other times, I also experienced like there's some distance between my culture and maybe Caucasian culture or some of the other cultures that I see around me. And coming back to the Bay Area from Hong Kong, I just felt really thankful for the way that I grew up and how normal it is to be Asian American here, like how normal it is to go out and eat dim sum and order in English. And yeah, I think especially the past year with a lot of the Asian hate incidents, and I was in Hong Kong while that was happening, I just felt a lot of kind of fugue about like, okay, where am I really from? Where do I belong? But coming back, I just felt thankful for the way that I grew up. So that's what inspired me to create this set of designs, and just trying to say thank you, but also playing on like the Chinese restaurants that I grew up around, and like changing the rose into these poppies.
California poppies.
Yes.
Is that, yeah,
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah, and then on the inner pocket, okay, it's full of stuff right now, I'm sorry. But it says 多谢 or like 多谢 in Cantonese, just like as a way of saying thank you. Because in Cantonese, there's two main ways to say thank you. One is "多謝," and one is "唔該." And "唔該" is what you usually say when you're entitled to certain services. Like if your service person comes and gives you your food, you say "唔該." But like "多謝" is more for gifts or for things that you're not entitled to. Yeah, so I just wanted to create something that reflected that.
I love that. So now we know the story behind the bag, which is so great.
Yeah.
How did you kind of figure that you wanted to, like, it first started out as a hobby, right? The screen printing. And what was that idea that clicked with you that was like, I'm going to actually sell this or turn this into an Etsy store?
Yeah. I think it was just like, well, I might as well try because there's no point to like screen printing a mountain of bags and just keeping them in my garage. So I was like, well, I enjoy doing this screen printing thing, and I showed it to my friends, and they seemed excited about it. And like, I think I posted it on my social media, and a bunch of people that I knew were like, "Oh, can I buy this?" And I was like, "Why not?" Like, yeah. So I went and got a business license, and then I put together an Etsy store, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I wouldn't think of business as something that I'm naturally drawn to, but I really appreciate the parts of it that have allowed me to connect with other people and learn from other people. We have so many people in our church who are incredibly creative and talented and who have started small businesses or are familiar with that. And I think it gave me an opportunity to connect with other people, like learn from them, and also just in like stuff like packaging bags and sending them out. It's like, oh, this is so fun. I feel like I'm wrapping presents. Yeah, so I think I just saw that, okay, this could be something other people are interested in, something I'm interested in, and why not?
I think that's so great. That is like truly the entrepreneur spirit of like our generation and even the next. So I'm so glad you tapped into that. Was there any point that you felt like, because as an artist to put your art out there, it could be scary. Obviously you're amazing, so you have nothing to be scared about. But like, it is something sometimes scary, and sometimes you do question yourself, like, am I good enough to like put my things out there? Did you ever go through moments like that? And then if you did, how did you overcome that?
Oh, sure. I mean, I feel like most artists, it's like we usually feel insecure.
It's a love hate like thing, right? You're like, I'm so proud of my
Yeah.
work, but at the same time, are people
Yeah.
gonna like it?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Honestly, sometimes I still like really hate sharing my work because I just feel really insecure about it. But I realized like, what do I have to lose? Like, and I realized sometimes I spend a lot of time making these things, and when I don't share them, it kind of just like piles up inside. And I don't know. I think I've realized that allowing other people to kind of see what I'm making and become a part of it, like brings a lot more excitement and momentum to the whole process, and allows it not just to be about me. Like, though there are still some things that I'm like, okay, that's not going to see the light of day ever. Yeah. But I think for the most part, just accept. And I think now, like, I'm like, well, I've failed much more, like in like more significant ways than like no one likes my Instagram posts. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's somebody that like also has like a passion that they feel like they may want to turn into something more, like what is something like little tidbit of sherry advice and encouragement that you can give to them from somebody that's been through it of like, having passions, hobbies that have turned into like a business?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely one thing that helped me was just talking to other people who have done something similar or have done something you really like, and just like connecting with them, seeing what they think about it. And I think that was so helpful to me as I was trying to figure that out. I was like, wow, you've just saved me like 8 months, in this one coffee. So I think that was really helpful. And then also just like, I think for me, I don't know if this is truly good advice, but like thinking like, well, what do you have to lose? Like, and not putting yourself in a position where, you're going to bankrupt yourself or be unable to pay your bills, but like within reason, like being accepting of risk, I think is helpful. And just it is scary to try to start something new, and you don't know how people are going to react. You don't know if it's going to be a complete waste of your time. But yeah, I think just having some willingness to take that risk, I think, is helpful.
I think that's so good because it's such a simple thing to say, but so hard to do sometimes because we're all so paralyzed by our fears, you know. But really, what do we have to lose if you know it's just worth a shot, right? And who
Yeah.
cares? I like that. So, what is kind of next in store for you? I mean, you have this first bag, which I feel like was such a hit, in my opinion. You have a second bag that you also made that was also AAPI inspired, right? And then are you still planning to make more bags or are you going to do other things with screen printing in your art? What's kind of in the short term?
Yeah, in the short term, I'm moving back to Hong Kong, which I'm very excited about, and I definitely want to continue this business. So I think I'm going to take a little break after I move back and see what facilities are open to me, what products. I'm excited about going to Hong Kong because I think there'll be a lot of different manufacturing opportunities that are available that might be more difficult in this area. Yeah, so we'll have to look and see.
And can I ask, you're going back to you already finished your master, so you're just going to go
Yeah.
back to live.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long are you going to be there for? I'm like, we're going to miss you over here.
Oh man. Yeah. I don't have a specific end date. I think it's open ended at this point. So I'm applying to jobs. I'm still doing some freelance work from I think clients in the U.S. side. But yeah, it's open ended. We'll see.
That's so exciting. Do you think you're going to continue to do your like Etsy store on the side?
Yeah, so I might migrate platforms at some point, but I do want to continue like creating illustrated products and selling them. I think like doing this small scale like Etsy business the past couple months has just shown me like, oh, this is something really enjoyable, and I love the way it gives me an avenue to share my work with other people. So I'll be looking for ways to continue that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of the world we live in today. It's that everything you can be across the globe, but it's still so accessible, you know, and like for artists, I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where can people find you if they love your art? Because I mean, you know, we've been talking about it a lot, but maybe it's somebody's first time meeting you via this interview. Where can they find you and your work?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at SXPaints, so like SXPAINTS. I have a website that's mostly my illustrated work. That's sherryx.com. And then my Etsy store is sherryx studio. But the link is also on my Instagram.
Amazing. And how do you, I know we kind of touched upon this earlier, but you know, I think you're somebody that does pursue God a lot. Like, how do you hope, again, that your art can be a way in how you live out your life for God?
Yeah, I think two things. I think recently God has just really put it on my heart to just be a light and be a Christian amidst artists. I think for a lot of artists there is a lot of resistance to Christianity for different reasons, and just to like be who I am as a Christian among artists, I think is something that God has put on my heart, and just to like love other people within the art community. So I think that's one way. And then the second way, which I hope to do more of, I think I really do want to create artwork that, reflects God and reflects his heart. Right now, I don't have like a big body of work that is in that vein, but it is something in my heart. And I hope that in the future it'll, become something that like we can see and we can share and we can talk about. Not right now, but...
Amazing. Well, I am such a fan of your work and of your art, and I hope that everybody will be able to follow you and see that too. And just also really excited for what's to come for you in Hong Kong. We'll be following you to hear about it.
Thanks so much, Francis.
Thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.